Do you believe there's a modern application of of the Pelegish, right? The concubine concept. Who was it? Was it the Yavits? I think it was the Yavits who said that it's perfectly not just allowed, but it should be encouraged. The notion of a Pelegish, the Rambam limits it to kings only. So Pelegish, for those who don't know, is the idea of a concubine. And this is a controversial topic. The only people who really talk about this are like the tefillin date guys. What's a tefillin date? That's when you take your tefillin on a date because, you're going to spend the night. I don't encourage that. I encourage precious. I think precious, that's the Hebrew word for abstinence. Fine. So a concubine is interesting. The word pelegesh comes from the Hebrew plag ish. That means your second wife. It's technically a wife. You have to give her a get. You don't have to give her a ketubah. That means that if someone sleeps with your concubine, they're chayav misa. They're liable to the death penalty because it's technically your wife. But you don't have to give her a ketubah. What's a ketubah? Now, a ketubah, it's interesting. The notion of ketubah was introduced much later in terms of, there's three things that solidify marriage. Kesef, shtar, bia. So Kesef, is money. As a matter of fact, Rav Aaron Rakefet, the Rock, he gave a shiur that he proves that everyone nowadays gets married via Kesef. That means when you give the ring over, that's how everyone solidifies a marriage. Bia is intercourse. And Chazal say that anyone, they made a ruling that you're not allowed to, in some way, solidify a marriage via Bia, but I have to double check if that's by Amoraim or really by Tanaim to see where it's standing. If it's standing. And then there's shtar, but shtar is not ketubah. Ketubah was introduced later on. The idea is that no one knows how to write a proper marriage contract. In terms of a pelegesh doesn't get a ketubah, but a ketubah is a later invention anyway. So it seems like concubines are a real thing, and not to mention polygamy. Polygamy is a real thing. According to Jewish law, a man is allowed to have up to 4 wives. You know that? According to Jewish law, a man could have up to 4 wives. Kings could have up to, I think up to 18, but people are allowed an unlimited amount of wives according to the Torah. By Chazal, it's limited. By the rabbis, it's limited to 4. This is, it appears in Mishnah Torah. I'm pretty sure it appears in Shulchan Aruch. All right, just because Shulchan Aruch is 90% Rambam anyways. I guess most people don't know that. But Rabbeinu Gershom, everybody knows, for Ashkenazim, outlawed it for 1,000 years. That expired. While Sephardim never had this prohibition, people actually came to the state of Israel from the Arab countries with many wives. They allowed them to keep their extra wives. They just told them you couldn't add any more. Although there used to be a website when I was living in Eretz Israel. This is controversial. It was called Pelegish Personals. It was a website for girls in the Jewish world who couldn't find, technically a shidduch. There is a shidduch crisis, and the shidduch crisis is that there aren't enough religious guys for as many religious girls that we currently have. So that's the crisis, right? There's too many girls, not enough guys. If you're listening and you're looking for a wife, convert to Judaism if you're a male, right? Because there's women even putting themselves on websites, just dying to see you. Fine. So there was also, I don't think Eliezer Berland in this, but there was I think a Breslov group in Beit Shemesh that did institute this, not institute, but they practiced polygamy. So it's a real thing. I'm pretty sure, like in Yerushalayim, you probably see people, 2 women, 1 guy were living in a house, and one of them is probably, identifies as a nanny or a cousin, but it's probably the wife, right? Because they'll just marry one legally and one not legally. I have no issue performing a marriage for a polygamous couple, by the way. it's halakha. Who am I to be firmer than Chazal? I'm not saying I'm going to marry more. I'm happy with my wife. Fine. But if someone wants to, who am I to, counsel anyone? Some people will do it. According to Torah law, there are instances where God commands you to be a polygamist. In what instance? Or expect you, not command. Yibum, guys, yibum. The levirate marriage. The levirate marriage, the sugya is that if your brother dies without having a child with his wife, the ideal is for you to marry that person. And if you have a wife, that's in some way the Torah telling you that's what you should do. Now, there's a process called chalitza, but it shows that that's that's what you shouldn't do, although it's allowed.